Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're exploring a profound paradigm shift in how we view education and ultimately how we shape the future of humanity. For the longest time, we've kind of thought of learning as this thing that happens strictly inside an isolated building called a school. But the data, and honestly, the reality on the ground, point us toward a much more powerful, shared global framework. Let's dive right in. Faced with what the Global Education Monitoring Report calls a global accountability crisis in education, it's incredibly easy to play the blame game. When test scores drop or behavioral issues spike, fingers tend to point in literally every direction. But we really have to stop and ask ourselves, who truly holds the key to a student's success? Is it just the school admin, just the teachers, the parents? Well, the answer is actually all of the above. The UNESCO Global Education Monitoring Report makes it abundantly clear. Reaching global benchmarks for quality education isn't some solo mission. It's absolutely a collective enterprise. A child's success is this beautifully complex outcome that comes from many different hands working together. Think of educational accountability like a massive, tightly woven web. You've got governments, parents, students, teachers, schools, NGOs, and even the private sector all linked together. True educational outcomes depend entirely on the deeply interconnected actions of everyone involved. You simply can't isolate one single node of this web and expect the whole system to hold strong. That brings us to our first main concept: every child's three teachers, and the paradigm shift to the TPS Triangle. So let's look at the core of this transformation. The teacher-parent-student, or TPS, triangle embraces a really wonderful reality. Every child essentially has three teachers. There's the dedicated school educator in the classroom, the loving parent or guardian at home, and, crucially, the engaged student themselves. This framework unites these three forces as interconnected, absolutely essential partners in the learning journey. To make this work, we're completely ditching that old transactional model. The one where parental involvement just meant showing up for a bake sale or dealing with a discipline issue. The new approach, it's family-centric. It focuses heavily on the home learning environment and building authentic, real relationships. It's no longer about just getting parents into the school building, it's about seamlessly connecting both environments. And this totally redefines what effective engagement actually looks like. Educational researcher William Janes points out something fascinating here. He notes that genuine engagement isn't about handing out strict homework checklists. It's a deeply relational phenomenon. Whether a teacher is genuinely loving, encouraging, and supportive to a parent might actually matter a whole lot more than any specific academic guidelines they offer. Moving into our next section, the power of relationships and why trust serves as the foundation of learning. So what happens when we actually prioritize this relational trust at the very base of our educational triangle? Well, the great news is we aren't starting from scratch. According to a national survey by the Search Institute, there's already an incredibly strong foundation to build on. 4 out of 5 parents report they already have a somewhat or very strong relationship with their child's teacher. That is a massive opportunity for us. And honestly, this next part is even more inspiring. 74% of parents report that teachers are the ones actively initiating and building these critical relationships. Despite the huge challenges and high turnover rates in the education sector right now, teachers are still out there doing the hard, deeply human work of forming bonds with families. Through these connections, parents naturally start seeing teachers as essential partners. The Search Institute actually identifies 5 vital elements for this to work: expressing care, challenging growth, providing support, sharing power, and expanding possibilities. And parents clearly indicate that all 5 of these are equally vital for teachers to demonstrate. It's a completely holistic approach to student growth. Trust is literally the glue holding this whole TPS triangle together. When that trust exists, it directly elevates how parents perceive a teacher's impact. Think about it. When parents trust the teacher, they reinforce the lessons at home. And when teachers trust parents, they can openly collaborate on real solutions for the student. Which brings us right to connecting home and school, because communication is absolutely a two-way street. How do we actually keep that trust alive in everyday practice? Well, through proactive, ongoing communication. Those formal report cards, they're just one tiny piece of the puzzle. Effective communication has to be a continuous, personalized dialogue throughout the entire year. We're talking conferences, portfolios, and just quick, informal check-ins.
This requires a major shift away from that reactive, one-way reporting, where a teacher just lists off what went wrong, to a genuinely proactive model. In this model, communication is a true two-way exchange of ideas. Parents might actually help co-create transition activities, and they fully understand how suggested homework tasks genuinely support their kids' learning. They're equal partners, not just passive receivers of information.
To borrow a surprisingly perfect thought from the UN's World Football Day, FIFA President Gianni Infantino mentioned that sports often act as an excuse to unite diverse cultures. Well, in our neighborhoods, our shared investment in our children serves as that exact same unifying force. The TPS Triangle gives us the absolute best excuse to come together and bridge our divides for the sake of the next generation.
Let's look at the big picture, shaping our future together and the global impact of the TPS Triangle.
When this triangle is forged with rock-solid communication, the impact goes way, way beyond a single classroom. By working together side by side, we directly align with the Global Schools Program's vision of education for sustainable development. We're literally empowering our youth with the exact collaborative skills they're going to need to tackle some incredibly complex global challenges.
Embracing education as a genuinely shared responsibility is pretty much the only way we're going to create inclusive, equitable learning environments across the board. When teachers, parents, and students act as one unified front, they don't just build a better school, they build a stronger, significantly more resilient world. They are modeling the exact type of cooperation required to shape the future of humanity.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question to chew on. If the very future of humanity depends on this partnership between teachers, parents, and students, how will you actively step into your role? What specific step are you going to take today to strengthen your side of the triangle? Thank you so much for exploring this vital topic with me today. Now let's get out there and build those relationships.